if that's possible. I'm not saying anyone up the back is banned from asking a question, but it just makes things easier in terms of moving around if you can come and take one of the seats in the front if you'd like to say something in the meeting. The first question, who wants to ask the first question?
Thank you, Leanne. Thank you very much. My name is Phil Howe and I'm an independent councillor here in Ferndale. I've been now for 8 years. I mean, the accident and emergency affects everyone. It's great to see the passion for everyone turning up, and I happened to be at the meeting last Thursday, which was a fantastic meeting, I felt. I don't know how we found ourselves in this position, you know, without sounding political. I don't want to talk about politics, but obviously the questions are going to be, we've had 21 years of Labour running the National Health Service, and these guys here have only just come in for the last couple of months, isn't it, 6 months. I have confidence that maybe we can resolve something. Having spoken to Marcus, there's a shortfall of 1,200 consultants throughout Britain, and because I wonder, why aren't people coming to Wales? What is it about Wales that they don't like? Now, I may come up with a suggestion. I think Leanne might have come up with a similar one, whereby I work for the National Health Service doing role play for young doctors. It takes 5 years to train up as a doctor. And they're from all over. They're from Ireland, Yorkshire, Bristol, London, China, everywhere else, you know. And the problem is, a lot of the consultants I speak to might have been retired or coming up to retirement, and they just want to work as locums. They don't want the responsibility of surgeries. And then to attract a younger person to come to the valleys, I'm from the valleys, but for some reason there's not a great deal here, so it's difficult to attract them, you know. But I thought to myself, the amount of debt that they're in, and I include my daughter on this because she's going to be a qualified doctor herself in about 4 months, the amount of debt that they have, and then they want to buy a house, they've got this looming over them. So I think if we can resolve this situation, hopefully, somehow, it has to be a 12-year plan, at least, whereby all these doctors should have all their fees paid for. And then they have to sign an agreement that they stay in Wales for at least 5 years. And maybe in 12 to 15 years' time, we'll never be in a predicament like we are ever again. I think we should do the same for nurses. I was at Abercanon last week and there was a woman speaking about her husband who was...
Can we come to the point about the closure of A&E?
I will now. I'm just looking at a long-term policy here. All right, okay, well, I don't know what the answer is. That's the bottom line, and I'm speaking to them there. If we can't attract consultants, we're not going to get out of this problem. Simple as.
They can recruit consultants to live there.
Can you go to the microphone?
Yes. Well, I guess that's all it is. I've got other questions. From what you just said, we can't recruit doctors to Royal Leanne. Prince Charles can recruit doctors. There's not really a lot of difference between Merthyr and Ferndale. So I don't think it is because we can't recruit doctors, because I believe Nick Lyons said last week, Healthwood hasn't even been trying to recruit permanent A&E consultants for the last 5 years. So what you've got to do is actually offer them long-term permanent jobs and whatever, you know, incentives they need.
Stop closing facilities when it's less than 20 years old?
Good idea, I agree. I've got other questions. Do you want to ask them now or later?
If Dr. Lyons could perhaps answer the point about consultant recruitment.
So this is all about staff for me. I'm guessing you need the number of staff, obviously, to deliver a safe service. And I think there's a huge amount more we can do in terms of our advertising to attract doctors. We haven't been doing that well enough. I'm not going to pretend we have. We need to do it now. And I suppose the only challenge I'd push back is that we haven't been able to recruit to Merthyr, to Prince Charles Hospital either. So we should have between 8 to 10 consultants in each of our ED departments. In Prince Charles, we've got 4. We've been very fortunate in attracting consultants to Princess of Wales and Bridgend over the last month. And they start this week, which is fantastic. And that enables us to now release 3 doctors to be released from Bridgend over to Royal Glamorgan Hospital. So, and that's the sort of thing we've got to do. I take your point about incentives. I've tried incentives when I've worked as a medical director elsewhere. I don't think it always works as well as you think it will do. I think what you can do is to really make the jobs attractive. And in our advert that's going out, we'll be saying, come and talk to us, and we'll tailor the jobs to what you want, and we'll be much more flexible to make it attractive, because I think there's huge opportunities to pull people in. I still don't believe, unfortunately, as Marcus said in his opening statement, that means we can bring the number of consultants and middle grade doctors, because middle grades are the backbone of the department, they're the ones who do all the work. And if there are 12 to 1,500 vacancies in the consultant workforce, there's an even larger shortfall across the UK for the middle grade doctors. So I don't think we can pull in the number to provide the 24-hour service, but I think we can make significant progress.
Thank you for that. I had a meeting this morning with Marcus Longley, and one of the things we talked about there in terms of the difficulty recruiting consultants is the fact that the South Wales programme 5 years ago indicated that there was not going to be a strong future for the department, and then that makes it difficult to recruit consultants. So I think the only way that you're going to really seriously recruit is if you delete the bit in the South Wales programme that refers to So it would be good if you could perhaps respond to that point. But I think, did you want to ask a question, Alan? Oh, I'll come to you next, okay? Yeah. Alan Cox is the Plaid Cymru councillor in Porth.
Yeah, look, the difficulty we have here tonight is understanding why our facilities are always the ones that are cancelled. And I tell you why. I tell you why, because they wouldn't get away with it in Cardiff. They wouldn't get away with it anywhere else. And they do it to us. Now they will say, the board will say that they've tried. And I think you said you haven't tried hard enough. I would agree with you. You haven't tried hard enough. Go away, try, and then come back and tell us that you failed. The reality is that for a number of reasons, the health board are failing our people here. I do not have confidence in the health board. I do not have confidence in those that have appointed the health board, because we know that the minister is appointed the health board. It is time for the minister to act. If this is a failing health board that doesn't deliver for our people, then we need to remove the health board, and he needs to take control and make sure that they can deliver here for our people. We will not put up for a second-class service in our communities. The chair talked about it being the best it can be. We know the best it can be, which is a 24-hour service where we're not worried in the middle of the night that we have a second-class service, and that is what will happen. The current position can't be allowed to continue. The current board can't be allowed to get away with not doing enough and then closing the facilities. The board, you're right, the current board must reverse the South Wales programme and say that there is a future for our services here at the Royal Glam. Once they've done that, then we start sorting out the recruitment crisis that suddenly has appeared. What were they doing when they didn't realise that there was a crisis looming? These are people who are well paid to spot these things. So if there is one thing that I'm clear about from this meeting and hopefully going forward is that we will not put up with a second-class service.
Sorry, my name is Jeff Matthews and I live in Porth. Last Thursday, the interim CEO said that it was difficult, if not impossible, to recruit consultants. The department clearly is suffering from planning blight. You said, or the health board said some years ago, it was going to close. Who wants to go and work in a department that's about to close? It's ridiculous. Now, I didn't make it unsafe there. The people in this room didn't make it unsafe. And the people working in the A&E didn't make it unsafe. your predecessors made it unsafe. Now you have to sort of get back together and sort the thing out. The Cwmtarth Health Board are now reviewing 2 options. What I'd like to ask is, who exactly is going to carry out this review? Will it be done with an open mind? Those members of the board, and I don't know who the board are, but those members of the board who were involved in the original decision should not be involved in this new review. They carry too much baggage from the previous decision. It's highly unlikely that they're going to come up with a different decision. They've already made their decision. They're not going to do something else, make themselves look silly from before. If someone's found guilty of a crime and they're allowed then to go and appeal, you don't go and get the jury back together. You start off with a fresh jury, fresh ideas. And I hope that the interim CEO and the medical director have not been put in place to act as a modern day Dr. Beecham and Ian McGregor. I want to say something to the politicians. I know this is political, I know this is party political, but I urge the political parties to work together to serve the constituents. If the politicians start trying to score points off each other, these people are going to be laughing. Because there's going to be 2, 3 different factions all arguing different. You did this and you did that. I urge you, and I suspect an awful lot of people in this room will urge you to get together, work out the plan that we can be involved in, and we can fight, I don't mean literally, but we can fight these people and make sure that the decision they come to is to give us an A&E, the busiest A&E in the authority. Keep it open.
Contributions. I know emotions are running very, very high, and this is an emotive subject. I would ask people to keep their contributions as short as possible, if you can. I know there's an awful lot to say. On the point of working together, of course, we've all got to work together as much as we can, not just across political parties, but across valleys as well. I mean, it makes no sense for there to be extra demand on Bridgend and Merthyr and people there not to be connected up to thinking about their service provision as well. I know that there's a meeting, there are a number of meetings coming up in the future. On Thursday night there's one in Pontypridd which Len Arthur is involved in, and that's going to be trying to pull together an organising committee. We want to plug into that. There's also a meeting in Tonrefa which Councillor Danny Green is organising, and there are other meetings going on next week. Some are organised by the Health Board, others are organised by politicians, others are organised by different campaign groups. The key thing is making sure that we all are coordinated together, organised together, and all pulling in the same direction. So thank you for making that point. I'll now ask Dr. Sharon Hopkins to come and respond to some of those very powerful points that were made there. Diolch.
Thank you very much. So, amazingly important issues that everybody is raising. I joined the organisation back in July, and I was asked to come in to look at how we started a big improvement journey for the organisation. And it very much takes to heart all of the things that you've been talking about. What services do our populations, you guys, our communities need? What are the services that we need to be providing for you? And it won't have passed you by that there's been some really difficult issues with some of the services over the past while, particularly with respect to the quality of services in the board. So one of the things that I have promised both myself and the board to do when I come in is to be hugely honest about what we're seeing in terms of the services that we're providing to the communities. And one of the things that kept me awake for the first few months of coming in here was the quality of the services being provided in our accident and emergency units. Now, this is not about the working staff. This is not about how hard staff are working. Well, it's not rubbish. So the staff are working enormously, enormously hard. but they will tell you that the environments they're working in are very pressured and don't feel safe.
But you made those environments.
Yes.
You caused
No one
this
else.
problem by saying it was going to close in 2014.
Can we let the speaker speak
But-
and then come up to the microphone to ask questions?
So what I'm trying to say to you is, I'll accept that, but we are where we are. I can't turn the clock back. So what we've got to do now is to understand what we're working with, both the sorts of services we want, the quality and safety of them, and we've got to find solutions for today and tomorrow. I can completely understand the anger about yesterday, but I'm afraid I can't turn the clock back. And we, with the politicians and with youth communities, have somehow got to find an answer to the problems that we've got. And one of the reasons that we're so very willing to come and listen to what everybody's got to say, one of the reasons why we haven't got a definitive model yet, is because you'll have some answers, you'll have some critical issues that you want us to consider, and we will need to work with you, with the politicians, to find an answer to the problems that we've got. I can't do it alone, and I certainly can't turn the clock back, but what I can be is brutally honest with you about the situation, brutally honest about what is the art of the possible, and where you're asking us to do things that I can do, we will do. And that includes, so for example, last week people were quite critical about the recruitment programme that's gone over the last couple of years. So we're actively changing that at the moment. Now, if over the next year that does result in fantastic recruitment, well, brilliant, that is just marvellous. But what all our experiences is saying, what all of the other organisations around us are experiencing, doesn't matter whether it's Cardiff. Cardiff can't recruit to its full numbers either. Whether it's other places out in the UK, we know it's going to be really difficult to recruit up to the full numbers that we need here to provide quality services. So we're going to have to do something that is a little bit different. And the sorts of models that we're starting to talk about, like can we keep a full service open for 12 hours or 14 hours, which would deal with 85% of all of the people that need to come to A&E? Is that where we start because we get the recruitment going? But this is a wicked issue. This is a wicked issue and we've got to resolve it together. And if we could magic doctors up tomorrow, I would have them here. But we cannot. And that is, you know, I am being open. I don't want another maternity situation. And we have somehow collectively got to be realistic and find a solution to the problems that we're facing.
Okay, I think no one is in any doubt that we're in a difficult situation. What would be helpful is if people could think of suggested solutions and things that we can put forward as ideas. If we're not recruiting consultants, what can we do to make that department more attractive to recruit consultants? What is it that we need to be demanding from both the Health Board and our politicians in the Senedd? Because I know a lot of people are saying that this isn't political, but there are political questions that need to be considered in this, and maybe we'll spend a bit of time considering those in the second part of the meeting. Okay, I'll take another round of questions from people now. Do you want to come forward first? Yeah? Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. The speeches that I heard at the beginning were all about you're working on 2 options and over the next month work is going to be done on that. But that wasn't option 3, so can you just let us know, are you going to be working on option 3 as well? That's all.
That's great.
John Hickman. I come from Pontypridd. I was at the meeting on Thursday last week. The question that was asked by the lady before me was a question I was going to ask because the chair, in summing up, said that no stone should be left unturned considering this option 3, which means that the A&E department would be left open for 24 hours a day. And I believe everybody here wants that option. It was stated, I wasn't here at the beginning of the meeting, but it was stated when I came in that there was only 2 options. that option 3 is very, very, very important. The other thing I'd like to ask, and I don't know whether or not I can get an answer for, is that figures were quoted for approximately 65,000 admissions to A&E at Royal Glamorgan last year. Have we got any figures for the 999 ambulance admissions for this hospital for last year? Yes, please. Thank you very much.
So the Chair, you're absolutely right, the Chair was clear at the meeting that no stone will be left unturned. We have to be realistic though, I don't think we can hide behind the hope that that'll work, because everybody who works in this field tells us however successful we are, however magic it is working in South Wales, the likelihood of that being able to be achieved is close to zero. I will try, because that's, that would be absolutely fantastic, wouldn't it? Because we would all feel that was the right solution to safely staff it with high quality, good doctors. But realistically, when you've got those huge vacancy rates at every A&E in the country, including the major trauma centres, the likes of University Hospital Wales in Cardiff, when places like that can't recruit, sadly it's harder for the small hospitals to recruit. So no stone left unturned, but it would be very foolish of me to...
before you've started?
No, that's like saying, I'm saying we will do everything we possibly can. But we have to be realistic, because if I couldn't, in all conscience, stand here and say, I can deliver this service with the right number of staff when every expert I know is telling me that I can't. So I owe it to you to get safe staffing in the right model of care. In terms of the 999 attendances, we have spreadsheets of data. Do I know that number off the top of my head? No, I don't, but we can let you have that.
Before you sit down, can you answer this question?
Can you come down to the...
debate something much, I'm not pop star. You're on about...
we can't hear you though. We can't hear you.
You're on about the safety of the patients, or sorry, the patient safety. Yet when the SIMPs they had board, they were quite happily closed down the A&E doors of Prince Charles and sent it down the Royal Glamorgan Hospital. And I heard you on TV last week say that on Christmas Day, the A&E department in Royal Glamorgan Hospital closed down. That's not the truth. The truth is they did close down at 10 o'clock at night because they couldn't take any more intakes from Royal A&E in Prince Charles. So I can understand your safety, because when you SIMPs the health board, Royal Glamorgan will take all the crap that comes. But then when you put the fight like this, you can't do it because it's not safe. You have to stop.
So there's two different issues here. It'll sound like it's splitting hairs, but I think there are two different issues. One is, in the ED department, the Accident and Emergency Department at Royal Glam, Christmas Day overnight and Boxing Day overnight, we only had a very junior doctor, not experienced enough to manage acutely unwell patients. Therefore, on safety grounds, the right thing to do was to send patients who came by ambulance up to PCH, up to Merthyr. Whilst those patients who were walking through the door, we were, through using senior nurses to support that junior doctor, able to deliver a model of service, not as I would want to have done. There is a separate thing which sounds as though I'm splitting hairs, that in terms of delivering patients to beds, we divert on a regular basis. That's not about staffing in the ED departments, that's saying which hospital has got beds in order for us to be able to admit them. So you're quite right, RGH, the GLAM, does take more than its fair share of diverts from Princess of Wales and Prince Charles Hospital, because the GLAM is absolutely fantastic at managing patients on the medical wards. And that's exactly why we don't want to close it down, and why we need to secure the future.
Be honest, Richard, of course you do it. You wanted to close it down.
We're going to move on to the next question now. I don't want to curtail what you're saying, but we don't need to move on.
Hiya, Liz Palmer, who is possibly going to need A&E sometime because I've got a chronic health condition.
You have to go to Prince Charles then.
Bearing in mind that many patients attending A&E departments, especially those conveyed by ambulances, are going to need ongoing care. In relation to this, I'd like to ask a few questions. Have the suggested hospitals the capacity in their wards, especially intensive care and high dependency units, to cope with the influx? Will these 6 patients be put under more physical and emotional pressure by being transferred back
to RGH? Will more ambulances be unable to respond to emergency calls if they're shuffling patients around hospitals? I don't know. I urge you to reinstate full A&E, or at least build answers to these questions into your modelling.
And I don't know the answers. Sharon Church is going to be honest, so will I. I'll be honest, I don't know the answers to those questions, but exactly as those things on a list of issues to be answered, which is those plus about 50 others, are things we need to do to really ensure that we understand the impact of this. Because you're absolutely right, it's not just the immediate safety of the ED department, it's through the hospital, it's relatives and carers visiting their loved ones in hospital, getting them back home to the right place, because the further away we move patients from home, the harder that becomes. So it's all that detailed work that we are now revisiting, because that was done in the South Wales programme, but we're now revisiting it with these two options to fully understand the impact of those options. Well, the third we know, because that's what we're doing at the moment. We understand how that system works. But we need to understand, if we were to make any changes, what the impact of those changes would be. You absolutely have my reassurance, that's built into the modelling.
Before we take the next question, someone has asked on Facebook if people could have some reassurances about mental health services. I mentioned this to you earlier on, Marcus. People who have a mental health crisis are diverted to the A&E department, and we know that risk of suicide is increasing, and we know that people need to be able to access services close as possible and quickly as possible. So the question that was put on my Facebook page was, what is the plan to change mental health services if you go ahead with these proposals? So if you could answer that. But before you answer that, if I could take some more questions from the floor, please. Okay, I'll take you there first. And then Julie, and then we'll have some answers, okay?
My question is, if it's so dangerous to keep the Royal Glamorgan open, what do you think of the impact it will be on the other hospitals who will have all the influx of our patients? We're talking about 250,000 patients going to Royal Glamorgan. If you think half of them go to Prince Charles and half of them to there, surely that's going to make their hospitals even, danger. It's going to be even, you know what I mean?
That recruitment has been the standard. Oh, sorry, okay. Everybody's agreed, wherever the blame lies from before or whatever, recruitment to our camp is a problem. It is a big problem.
Can I just speak in a minute? I come all the way from Paris.
Right, okay. Can I finish my question? It is a quick one. All I wanted to say, recruitment's a problem. Will you, as the board, as part of your options, consider what Leanne has suggested and strike downgrading of Royal Glamorgan from the South Wales programme? Because maybe then recruitment stands a chance. That's all
So there's quite a lot of issues there, isn't there? I mean, I guess the first issue is about mental health patients and some of our most vulnerable. We've currently got the crisis team and access to 136 examinations at the Royal Glamorgan Hospital, and there will be no plans for that to change. So that will stay, regardless of whether we have a 12-hour, a 14-hour, and an MIU service. So that stays.
24 hours.
Yes. So the 24 hours for mental health patients will stay there through those teams. The lady over here mentioned 250,000 patients, and I want to make it quite clear that we're not closing the Royal Glamorgan Hospital. That would be impossible. It would be bonkers. This is a situation about a service that at the moment the risks we're running for accident emergency is too high. in my professional opinion, in Nick's professional opinion, and we need to find a solution to that. The sorts of solutions that we're talking about at the moment would allow between 75 and 85% of everybody, so those 65,000 people that currently go through A&E at the moment, some of the models that we're talking about would enable between 75 and 85% of patients still to be seen. Now, I understand that many of you will say that that's still not good enough, and that's part of the work that we're going to have to do with you over the next little while.
What a mess. What a mess. I've never heard anything like it. I'm not on the internet. I'm one of these people that have a free life. I have a problem life, and I always have. When I was sitting watching the news at 6 o'clock, I could see you coming in. I knew where to come, and I thought, right, get in the car, from Pyle. My knees are knocking, I feel physically sick, and I can't believe that this is happening. When you shut the maternity hospital, and maternity, I thought that was disgusting, but this time, you're not going to get away with it. One, my family lifestyle, my friends, my neighbours, and everybody in this area know how important it is. One, geologically. Two, we have the biggest ill health in Britain, along with Scotland. I quarrel with Leanne all the time. What am I like? With the Welsh Assembly. Scotland and us have got the biggest population of profoundness because of our geological area. The politicians, or Mark Dreyford, or whatever his name is, he've decided to say the politicians are out of it and leave it to the doctors. We know what the doctor's got, nobody. He's not doing nothing. Other than us Labour, or me Labour, I don't know the others, are trying to consider what is available. But the consideration isn't Bridgend, Merthyr or Cardiff. How are you going to get there? I have AF, and on one occasion was a real problem. There was an accident and a boy died. And the ambulance didn't want to take me to Merthyr. I'm living proof. My daughter was living proof. My family. Now get on with it, you doctors. Kick the politicians right where they should be kicked. And do something about it. And don't let the politicians say, we leave it to the doctors. What good are you, without anywhere you can treat us? If there's only a few doctors, better to have it in the place where we got the equipment. It's no good taking us 40 minutes ride, and it is 40 minutes in the winter. You can't get out to Pennygreg, Clydach, Trebanog, Merthyr, the roads are shut off. You got it, love. Right, I've said on my bit. I leave it to you now, and you know where we stand, but they cannot get away with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maureen. She used to cut my hair. That was a long time ago. Can I take some more questions before we take some more answers? Maureen. Another Maureen.
Hi, my name is Maureen Weaver. First of all, I want to say a great thank you to the staff in the A&E department, because without those and the stress that they go under, I think they need a round of applause, you know. This isn't helping them at all. The second thing I want to say, there are consultants, A&E consultants throughout Bridgend, over in, yes, and come down. So couldn't we just alternate them and bring them into the Royal Glam? Because we know there's going to be one consultant down again at the end of March. So we need that covered. And in the interim, while you were trying to get people in, at least the departments will be covered in the 3 areas. But I think it's so important. It isn't something that we just want, it's something that we need. Because the things in the Rhondda has been taken from us. They've gone over the years, the bach and the bow. They've taken from us, closed schools and everything, you know. They've closed the casualty department in Ferndale. I worked there, there's a few people that worked there. I worked in the A&E department in Royal Glam. I know the stress they're under. And this is putting more stress on them. So we've got to look after our staff, but we have to look after our communities. And I think we've got to look after each other as well. Thank you.
Maureen is one of the Plaid Cymru councillors covering the Pentre ward, and Julie, who spoke earlier, is a Plaid Cymru councillor covering Porth. Both of them have experience working in the health service. Can I take one more point before we go? Go on, come over. Can you come down the front and then you can ask the question next.
Sorry, I've got to put my glasses on to see these days. My name is Catherine Ashcroft. I'm a resident. I live in Pontyclean. I've got 3 questions basically. The first one I'm going to say, I've heard it that doctors want to go to blue light trauma hospitals and they don't want to go to smaller hospitals. And that links into one thing that I've not heard said at all throughout all this. I was at Abercynon last week, etc. Why can we not consider upgrading the Royal Glamorgan, not downgrading it? Yeah. The need has been identified. There's 65,000 patients going to A&E. Every patient that goes into the Royal Glamorgan Hospital has to go through A&E. So if we can't get the doctors because they don't want to go to these smaller hospitals, consider upgrading it. Instead of keeping the status quo or downgrading, upgrade it. Maybe that might attract some consultants who want to come here. One of the issues you said around you want to listen to everybody, etc. Another thing I've not heard anybody say as yet, how you are actually using service users' input. Sorry guys, this is their speak. But we're all service users. We all use the service, okay? How are you using service users' input? Is that directly influencing the decisions? Because as I see it, it's not at the moment.
No, it's not.
And coincidentally, I was a service inspector working for the Audit Commission and the Audit Office, and my responsibility was for service user input. So I do know a little bit about that, right? And how are you collating what you're hearing? You're at this meeting today, which is great, that's fab. You were at another one the other day, you're going to be at some others. And everybody's got really, really valid points to say to you. How are you collating all that? How is that going to influence and link to this last question I've said? It's all very well everybody turning up, and it's great that we do that, and we need to do that, and we need to be more coordinated, everybody, all right? But what are you going to do with it? Are we flogging a dead horse? Well, I'm looking at you directly. You're the medical director, right? We need to have direct influence into the decision-making process and not sit on the sidelines and do all the shouting. Thanks very much.
Sorry, I'm going to write down the questions, otherwise I'm going to forget. So, taking them in reverse order, how are we collating it after all of our meetings and all the discussions we have, whether in these public meetings or with our clinicians? We've got an issues list, a long list of issues which we're ensuring gets included. Those of you who've been to more than one meeting will probably notice that actually we're shifting slightly and already taken on board some of the things that have been raised. So absolutely that's important. Staffing from Merthyr down to the Royal Glam. Merthyr only has 4 consultants, or 4.2 to be precise. So realistically, they haven't got the capacity to bring any down. But those 3 consultants I referred to earlier, coming over from Princess of Wales and Bridgend to support the locum staff at the Royal Glam, that's happening in the very near future. So we are moving people around and working with them, making sure we've got the right combination of experience and skills to be able to do that safely and to do that properly. Upgrading, we then run into a separate issue which we haven't covered, because actually if you're working in a major trauma centre or any of the super specialised, you need to have enough cases to be able to keep your expertise. And that's why all of the smaller hospitals are centred around Cardiff will have the most complex cases going down to Cardiff. And that we can't change, because you need to be seeing somebody who's seeing enough of those cases in order to be confident and to be give them the very best care. What we can do, though, to attract doctors is actually say, you may be based at the Glam or Merthyr or Princess of Wales, but actually you can go and do a day a week or whatever in Cardiff in order to be able to gain those skills, or somewhere else if you've got a specialist interest. And that flexibility is perhaps something that hasn't been present in recruitment before, and we're now putting right. So we're really listening to what doctors and nurses want to keep them there. Service users, yes, I mean, for me, this is part of it. I'm learning every time I drive home. I'm thinking about what I'm learning from you. You challenged me on Thursday. I drove the mountain road on Sunday. Got lost, I must confess.
First thing on the rush hour. Never mind about Sunday.
9 degrees, not minus 9 either.
So, and Sunday was raining, but it wasn't that bad, was it? So yeah, we fully accept that. But we are listening and are trying to take your views in. And then as the models develop, we'll really need to develop a methodology, a way of really getting you to contribute so we can learn from you, but also challenge, as you're capable of doing, which is good, really challenge us on those models. Do you know what? The first speaker in the last group said we shouldn't be able to get away with this. To be honest, I don't think I should, in all clear conscience, be able to get away with what we're doing at the moment, because it's not right, it's not as safe as it should be. So yes, we shouldn't get away with implementing a model that's wrong. I fully accept that, and we're trying to make this as best as it possibly can. But we've got to remember that you also shouldn't let me get away with what we're doing at the moment, because it's not right.
Did we have someone at the back who wanted to ask a question? Right, I'm going to take one last batch of questions now before we bring this part of the meeting to an end, and then we'll go on to the second part of the meeting, which is organising. So, can you two come down to the front and you there then, okay, so that's the final 3 speakers for the night, okay, for this part.
I wanted to ask you a question. It's just more of a wanted to ask a question, a statement. There's lots of rumours about the operation theatres in Royal Glam also closing down or going down, and we just want clarification on that. So that's my point, firstly. Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Hello there, my name is Alan Parker. Just want to ask a quick question to the panel. I mean, you're on about sending consultants down to Cardiff for training. What I want to know is, throughout all the health boards in Wales, why are certain areas being picked on and others getting away with it? For example, if there's a pool of consultants throughout Wales, why can't they be distributed evenly amongst the health boards rather than focusing Cardiff and the cities? Now, as regards lack of recruitment for the Royal Glamorgan, I can't think of one hospital in South Wales with better road access, better access to the M4 facilities than Royal Glamorgan. So why people can't be recruited there, I'm not sure.
John Charles Tolabandi. I've been very grateful to the A&E at Royal Glam with my late mother on many occasions. My main concern about you wanting to divide the service between the north and the west of the health board is in terms of ambulances. Our ambulance service is very fragile. We have a very poor road network. The natural connectivity from the Rhondda is staked on the A4119 to the Royal Glamorgan. And I think trying to get ambulances out to patients, especially if they've been held outside your departments waiting to discharge, is only going to get worse. Bad enough an ambulance having to come from the Royal Glamorgan up to Rhondda. If you've got to wait for them to come from Bridgend and from Merthyr, this critical golden hour that you're always going on about is just not going to happen. And people who haven't got cars, it's going to be very difficult to get to Bridgend. It's going to be very difficult to get to Merthyr. Then you go on the train, you've got to get a bus then up to Prince Charles. And as Alan said just now, I mean, in terms of convenience, Royal Glam should be the main A&E for that part of South Wales.
I've got a question for Leanne, actually, mostly. We all know the NHS is struggling right across the whole country, but health in Wales is devolved. Is there a big enough budget to recruit the necessary consultants if they can? And what can we all do? I mean, what can you do to help, the board members, and what can the rest of us do to help make sure we can get the doctors we need?
Good question.
So to take those in turn, briefly, the first one, operating theatres. Is there any plans to close them? No. Can't really make that any longer, actually. It's just no, there isn't, because we absolutely need those operating theatres. Distribution of doctors. There are huge problems in all of the hospitals in Wales, less so in the larger departments in Cardiff, but all of the smaller hospitals have similar problems. So it's no cunning plan, but actually at the end of the day, doctors choose where they want to work. To a certain degree. So if they want to work in a major trauma centre like Cardiff or Bristol or Liverpool, one of the major centres, then that's their right to apply for those jobs. Our challenge and what we're doing differently.
Doctors from Bridgend to the Royal Glamorgan, but you're saying that doctors pick and choose where they want to work. Well, that you just contradicted yourself. So can you physically order a doctor to move from the Princess of Wales to cover in the Royal Glamorgan? Because if you can, then you can move doctors around the place. And ultimately with this, it's a political decision. And there's a guy in the Assembly called Vaughan Gethin who calls the shots on us. And if he says you can move doctors, you can move doctors. So maybe that's what needs to be looked at, is a fair distribution, okay, of clinicians throughout the hospitals in South Wales, rather than concentrating them in the hubs in Cardiff or Swansea or Newport. That's my point.
It's a point well made. At the end of the day, there are all sorts of HR, contractual issues. There's only so much we can do. But to be fair to our doctors and our clinicians, they actually want to do the right thing as well. So the conversation with the consultants has been, actually, how can we help, Nick? How can we move around? So I don't think it is a political issue, actually. I think it's more of a professional issue to use our resources as best as we can. Ambulances, absolutely agree. We've probably had, I've lost count of the number of meetings and modelling and detailed discussions with WAS, the ambulance service, to work out how we can, what resources, what impact, and what other transport as well. So it's not just about the ambulances responding to 999, it's also about enabling families to get home and enabling people to come and visit their loved ones in hospital. So the whole transport issue is really important. And do you know what? I don't think this is about money. I really don't. This is about making the future of the Royal Glamorgan Hospital clear and secure. And I know you feel we're probably doing the opposite, but very genuinely, I think once the future of that department, whatever it may be, is clear, we can then build the services around it and we can secure the future of the really important hospital. Throwing more money at it, I don't actually think would save the problem in terms of staff. There might be some capital issues and some building work in order to deliver the best quality of services. So that's a money discussion. But throwing money at the wages and throwing money at the doctors and nurses, I don't think solves it, because that's not the issue we're talking about.
The final question that was addressed around, no, I'm sorry, we finished now. No, sorry.
Just say, we had a categorical answer that theatres were not shut. Me and Anne have just come from a staff meeting at the Royal Glamorgan Hospital, where it was stated by staff board members that the intensive care unit will close if it goes down to minor injuries unit. If there's no intensive care unit, there will be no theatres.
So that can't be allowed to happen. So you're right. Under the minor injuries unit option, the first of those options, that would take away the trainees from our intensive care unit, which would then make that very fragile. But that does not mean that the operating theatres would close. It would just mean that a number of operations would therefore have to be changed. That does not mean the operating theatres would close.
You've been put in by the our government to get rid of this hospital. There's the fact.
So let me just remind you.
Quiet, please.
No, can I just remind you that the board discounted the MIU proposal, and we did that.
What does that mean?
So going just down, just providing minor injuries unit and nothing else, we discounted that because of the impact it would have on surgical training and intensive care training. We need the Royal Glamorgan Hospital for surgery and for ITU. We can't do anything that jeopardises that. I'm quite clear about that. So the model that we're talking about with a 12-hour or a 14-hour A&E would secure the surgical services and the ITU services. So we are quite clear we are not putting surgical services or ITU services at risk. Not doing that.
What happened when maternity finished there?
Yeah.
There was no mention of this. Now you're shutting this and we're waiting
No.
for the next thing.
No, I'm sorry.
You said away that the human rights was there now. But we've left.
Yeah. No, I'm really sorry to say that this is all as a result.
Central government to tell them that's what I'd be doing, and I'd be naming Margaret. He should be here, not leaving it in the doctor.
So I'm just going to reiterate that you know what we've got here is we've got a situation that we've got to deal with. We've got to find a way of enabling the services to be as safe as possible going forward. Doing nothing is simply not an option. And saying that we have to provide a 24-hour A&E department when I can't get doctors is also not an option. We will try our very hardest to try to recruit, but I will not stand here and say to you that I can guarantee that, because I can't. What I can guarantee is that we can find... Okay, well, I would be happy to do that. The board might not be happy for me, but I can guarantee you won't get anybody else who will come up here and face these issues full front on. Because nobody else, up to the point of me coming here, has taken this on and been honest with you and told you what the situation is. So it's collective for us to find a solution.
Okay, thank you very much. Many people I know have not had an opportunity to say what they wanted to say tonight. There are going to be other meetings. There's no doubt that there are difficult situations that need to be faced by the board, but there are also difficult situations to be faced by us from either of the two options that have been put on the table so far. So we need to close the meeting now, because we could because people could talk all night.
Mine wasn't answered really, because my original question was...
I know, but see, 3 people want to ask a question at the same time, and we can't do it. I propose that we make any further points in the second part of the meeting, where we need to consider what it is we want to try to achieve and how it is we want to campaign to secure those services. We won't get anywhere by people just expressing how unhappy they are with the situation. We're all unhappy. I live in Penygrive. My family are affected by this just the same as anyone else, but I'm really keen to come up with solutions to make sure that we've got a way forward on this. It's not enough just to keep venting about how unhappy we are. We are going to have to organise, coordinate and make sure that we've got a strong campaign. So that's a good point to end the meeting on. I just wanted to address the question that was put to me personally at the end there. This is a political question. Health is fully devolved. You heard the answers from the Health Board. It's not about money, although I believe that certain investments at the Royal Glamorgan could make the place more attractive, linking in with academia, training and so on. But that's something that we can flesh out and consider more. It is political because it's unacceptable to me that the ratio of doctors is as it is. We've got 1 to 7,000 people as the UK average. The ideal would be 1 to 4,000 people. Here it's 1 to 15,000 people. Now we would all accept that we shouldn't accept that second-class service here in the Rhondda, and we should not also accept that people in the poorest and most deprived parts of the whole of the UK are the people who are set to lose the most. So that is what we need to consider. How we place that political pressure on the ministers in the Senate is something further to consider, but I think that question of doctor ratios is a key one because there's a major inequality there which I don't think we should accept. So that's the end of this meeting now. We'll stop the recording, say thank you very much to the Health Board representatives, and we'll carry on the next part, which is organising our campaign. Diolch yn fawr iawn.